fabulous Serenity Sunday, ladies. I hope everybody's having a fabulous weekend. So, Serenity Sundays isn't necessarily about skincare for me, although I do believe that when we take time to look after ourselves and just really pour back into ourselves and nourish our bodies and our minds, I do believe that it shows in how we show up into the week and how our skin behaves. Because I do find that when I'm in a really good space, mentally, physically, emotionally, my skin just kind of gets that natural glow. And yes, you might occasionally still have that breakout or whatever the case is, but I tend to see that my skin, it shows that I'm happy and I'm healthy and I'm in a good space. And so anyway, I've spent the weekend pouring into myself. I had a very lovely chat yesterday with a lady that I was meeting for the first time, and I absolutely enjoyed her company. We had a great coffee. I went to a cafe that I've been wanting to try out for a very long time, and it was so beautiful. It was amazing. I took a walk. I, watched a couple of movies that I wanted to watch. I read a good book. So yeah, for me, weekends in general, I try to make time in my weekends as much as possible to really just be happy and be in my happy space. And so whatever that looks like for you, some people prefer to be alone like me. I like my solitude. Some people prefer to be out and about. And some weekends I prefer to do a little bit of both, like I'm an ambivert. So sometimes I do enjoy being social and being out and about with other people, which this weekend I had a nice kind of mix of both. Yesterday I went out and was pretty social, and then today I've just been at home. But I have been devouring this very amazing book, and I read a line in this book that completely instantly reminded me of myself a few years ago and reminded me of some of my friends who probably can relate to this. But the line that really hit home for me was, he says in this book, he says, the earth continued to rotate. He has just told a story about time and about surgery and how, he's a surgeon and how much work there is, and the hours are pretty long. But long story short, at the end of his conversation about how long the hours are, he says, and the earth continued to rotate. And it just hit me because I was like, I often read about how stress is one of the leading causes of diseases in our bodies. There are so many, chronic induced illnesses in the world today. There's also a lot of just, I guess, in the kinds of work that people are doing in nowadays, like we're more sedentary in terms of like the lifestyle that we're living. So you're sitting down for long hours, you're not moving your body. There is also just a lot of like longer working hours, where again, it's sedentary working hours, right? So you're not working long and moving your body at the same time. You're working long and sitting down and super stressed. And it just reminded me how like, I used to work on Sundays when I was still in corporate. And yes, I did work today. This is not to say I don't work on Sundays or on weekends, but when I do, it's because I choose to. But it reminded me about how like when I was in corporate, Sundays for me was such an anxiety inducing experience. Like it wasn't thinking to myself, like I wouldn't wake up and think, oh amazing, I get to just rest today and point to my soul and go to church or watch a sermon online or read a book or relax and go for a walk. Like it was always, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's already Sunday and I have to go back to work tomorrow. And then before the brunch is even over, I would already be like, okay, I need to open my laptop and work. And in that work I would find frustration and I would be stressed out already about the week ahead. And one of the things that I've it wasn't new information that stress is can create illness, but it is also this idea that people forget that you could be using multiple skincare products that actually are the right skincare products for your skin, or you could be drinking your water, you could be getting your sleep and moving your body, but if you are stressed, your skin will show that you are stressed. And I know it's easier said than done, because I have been there where I continue every week. I remember telling myself, like when I was in corporate, like, okay, this week is going to be different. I'm not going to work on the weekend. I'm not going to work long hours. But the reality is sometimes you go to work and you find that things need to get done. Or you go to work and you find that you're working with a team that you can't rely on. Or you go to work or you're working with a difficult manager, or whatever the case may be. And those plans, I guess, go out the window very, very quickly. And sometimes it's not by choice. Sometimes other people are expecting you to work longer hours. And some other people are sometimes the cause of your stress. And so, anyway, all of this is to say that I remember just before quitting my job thinking to myself, if I was sick at the time, when I was about to quit my job, I was so sick. And I knew in that moment that my body was telling me, like, I absolutely was 100% sure that my body was telling me that I was stressed. I have the ability to work through stress so well that I'm unable to tell when I'm super stressed sometimes. I think now it's gotten a little bit better since I've taken a break from work, from corporate, but I got to a point where, yeah, like on the outside, like I was doing great and I was performing well and that was great. And, I was on top of my stuff, but at the same time, I couldn't tell that I was stressed, right? Maybe I could tell that like, oh, I'm under pressure this week because I've got like a lot of tasks to do or whatever the case may be. But I was not able to tell when I was so stressed that my body was struggling. And so to me, it just felt normal. It felt like a normal week of just, okay, there's things to do. Let's get it, and I've always been a go-getter, like on top of my stuff, like ready to tackle, and I still can. But I also realized in the process, like just because I know how to operate under pressure doesn't mean I always should. And this brings me to my first lesson, which is or not lesson, but my first thought is like, we really need to move away from this idea that like when you're interviewing someone or when you're looking for someone to fill a role, that we're constantly asking people like, do they work well under pressure? Like, I don't know. I think there's a question mark there. Okay. But I'm going to leave that conversation for another day because yeah, you may not go into it. But yeah, like I just because I know how to work well under pressure doesn't mean I should be working under pressure 24/7, because that is not healthy. It's not healthy for my skin. It's not healthy for my body. It's not healthy for my brain. It is not healthy for my soul. And it's just crazy that we expect people to do that. And I say this having been on both sides of the situation, on the side of being the person who's expected to work well under pressure. I've been on the side of the person who says, hi, my name is, and I work well under pressure. Yes, I've also been that person. But I've also been on the other side, who is the hiring person who's going, do you work well under pressure? Like, let's see and let's test that out. Yes. So I speak knowing that I was also the person who was perpetuating this idea that constant pressure environments are good for us. I've since learned my lesson. I'm sorry. Anyway, so yes, that is the first thing. The second thing is, yes, I was telling you guys about how in the moment when I quit my job, I had been sick for maybe like 2 to 3 months. I had been sick like nonstop, like continuously. And I'm talking like bad sick, right? And I'm not particularly a sickly person, like outside of like some of my skin issues that I've had and outside of like my menstrual issues that I've had with dysmenorrhea, I'm not particularly a sickly person in terms of like getting colds and flus and infections and that kind of stuff. Like when that happens, it's usually because something else is going on, but I had been sick for 2 to 3 months, maybe just under 3 months, continuously without getting better. And it would keep changing. Like it would be one thing to another. And some of it was like I'd get boils, and sometimes I'd get like, just like my skin would break out really badly, like not even in a proper way. Not that there's a proper way for your skin to break out, but it wasn't normal, And then I get like really sick, where I was like convinced I had COVID multiple times within a short space of time, which I was like, that doesn't even make sense, at least not from what the medical stuff was telling me on the internet. So anyway, yeah. And then I woke up one day and my legs just couldn't move, and I was stuck in bed, and I didn't panic. Like it was so weird because I didn't think to myself, oh, like I should, call my uncle or call my aunt or call, my best friend or whoever, like to tell them like I need to go to the hospital. I didn't even think to myself, call the hospital. I didn't think to myself, call an ambulance, or like I have my doctor, my GP on WhatsApp. I didn't even think to call her or to text her and be like, dude, this is happening. Like, what do I do? I woke up. I couldn't get out of bed. And the first thing I thought, I remember this moment like it was yesterday. I was staring at the ceiling. And I breathed and I knew in my head, I have to quit my job because it will kill me if I don't. And it's such a crazy thing because I do realize and I empathize with the fact that it is not something that every person can just do. I was very lucky and privileged that I had been working towards that, right, for a long time already, like working towards my exit. Even though I had not intended for my exit to be in that year, let alone that month, child. Okay, like I had just taken on a massive project at work that I had in fact brought to the table, and I did not anticipate that would happen so soon, but it was something that I knew eventually at some point I would outgrow the environment and I would want to get out. And I was just lucky that I had saved up as much as I could, but partly also because I had saved up because I was working so much that I was barely having time to even spend what I was making. Like, I didn't have the time to go for dinners. I would miss dinners with friends, miss dinners with family, miss birthdays, miss outings, because as soon as it hit weekend, when I wasn't working, I was so exhausted. I could barely, like, even just going to buy groceries was just a win at that point. But I remember looking at the ceiling and sighing, but not even sighing, I think breathing out heavily. And I thought to myself, I have to quit my job, because if I do not, this job, and if it kills me, the world will continue. As it should, because who am I that the world would stop, right? But at the same time, the world would continue in the sense that at work, they would hire the next person for the role. And as they should, because the company needs to, there are people whose livelihoods depend on the company. But the reality is, you just get to the realization that, it is not all getting, you work hard, and that's important, right? It's important to work hard, to work smart, to, go after your dreams, for sure. I am 100% that girl, go after what you want. But it is also important to realize when you are going after what you want so hard, and that it becomes that you no longer are chasing what you want, and you're starting to chase what other people think you should chase. And then it's important to know that that can kill you. When it gets to a certain point where your well-being is now compromised, where your soul's well-being is compromised, where your health is compromised, then you must know that, okay, briga Joe, briga Paula, just poye, okay? Because that can kill you. And I just laid there and I was like, if I die, they'll be sad for a day, maybe 2. And then they're gonna be like, okay, who's gonna step in as acting what? Can we get a role out? Do we hire internally or externally? Do you know what I mean? I was like, it's not worth it, because what will my family do? My family will receive the flowers that they'll send to them. Maybe if I'm lucky, they'll send maybe a tawa, maybe 2 tawa, just to say, yo, here's for some vegetables. And yes, that would be helpful. That would be kind of them, and we'd be thankful and grateful. My family, I'm pretty sure, would be thankful and grateful. However, just in that moment, I thought about my grandparents having to get a call saying that I was dead, and them having to go to the hospital or wherever to go and ID my body, or to go and have a last moment with my body. That was insane to me. I was like, for what? Yes, that may happen one day, but it should not be because I was overworked, because I was trying to secure the bag, because I was trying to climb the ladder, or because I had thought of myself, or had been made to feel so integral to the company. And perhaps I was great, but none of us are indisposable. None of us are irreplaceable. At least not at a corporate level. Okay, the reality is, no matter how unique I am, how amazing I am, how great I was at my job, the reality is the company needs to continue, and they will hire as soon as possible for your role. Or they'll just change the name to a different name, the role's name to something different, to pretend they didn't just rehire someone in your place. And then they'll be like, oh, we couldn't just possibly get somebody else into her role. No, they will. So anyway, then I proceeded to to quit my job. And I mean, I had also felt that I had given so much of myself to the company that no one could deny that I had given so much of myself to the company, and that I had excelled, and that I had, you know, contributed significantly, immensely. Whether they liked me or not is irrelevant, but they could not deny my work was great. They could not deny my contribution was significant. I had been lucky to make such great connections while I was there. But there came a time where I think I had taken on so much at the expense of me, but at the reward of everybody else. And that, yeah, I look back now, and it's been over a year since I left that company. And I'm so glad that I made that decision, not because of them, but because for me, like, I've been so much healthier since, I've been happier since, I've been calmer. The first few months after leaving my job actually was so bad that I would be so anxious about like not working and not having, I think when you're so addicted to being stressed and to working all the time, like, and then you suddenly are not working, or you're not stressed, or you're not this, and you're not having frantic days where everything is important and everything is urgent, you kind of like sit there and you're like, something is wrong. It feels like something is wrong. It feels like you're coming off of like, I don't know, like it felt like I needed to go to rehab. I was shaking, I was anxious, I was worried, I was sad, I was depressed. And so it took a while. It took a couple of weeks for me to get to like a point where I was like, okay, like, it's fine. You're fine. You do not need to frantically be running around from one project to another, trying to save this and save that and add, you know, a contribution to this and a thought here and an opinion there. And my goodness, like, you know, and chasing KPIs every 5 seconds and revenue targets and whatever else may be. Yeah. So anyway, all of this is to say that stress is a killer. Stress is a killer. And I've always, you know, coming from a household where my grandmother was a nurse, a very good one at that. And I grew up, you know, going to work with her a lot because she'd work on weekends as well. You know, I went to work with her a lot. All of her friends, all of my aunts were nurses. So I had been around the terminology of like stress-induced illnesses and diseases of the body that were as a result of chronic stress. And, you know, acute stress is different. And the issue with today's world that we live in, especially as young people today working in corporate, is that like we're more prone to chronic stress than we think. And then that's not even like, we haven't even added the pressure of, I think, social media and just like the general shift in how society connects to one another. But just from a work perspective, it's just so much more stress. And we're living a lot more, our lives are a lot more sedentary than our parents' lives were. Like, our parents worked really hard, probably harder than we work perhaps, but I guess it depends what you're measuring as a criteria. But the reality is they were moving their bodies a lot more. The types of jobs they were working required for them to move their bodies. Now, don't get me wrong, there are illnesses linked to that as well, like being overworked physically, which is why even with the gym, people will tell you like you do have to have rest days. You can't overwork your body in that way and your muscles in that way. However, living a sedentary life is actually a lot more bad for your body, because, you know, heart health, for example, is linked to you moving your body, and something as simple as walking is good for your heart. So living a heart healthy lifestyle is important. And yes, one could argue that, you know, this is why people should go to the gym and sign up for gym and sign up for Pilates and go for fun runs on Saturdays. And yes, that is 100% true. But when you don't have the capacity to do that, when you don't have the time, when you don't have the resources, that can be very difficult. Because I remember in articles, we didn't earn enough in articles for us to be able to do all of that. And when I think about my last job that I just shared the story about, like, I earned enough to do that, to go to the gym and have a gym membership and a Pilates class and blah, blah, blah. But even my Pilates trainer at the time, like I had a Pilates trainer for like a year, just under a year before I left my previous job. And even she was, at some point, she was like, how do I help you help yourself? And it wasn't because I wasn't showing up or when we were in class. It was that like my job was so unpredictable that if I went to work and I had said to her, I'll see you at 12 during lunch for like a session, like something would come up and then I can't make it, right? And that would happen quite often. So the roles had reversed now. It was like, oh, now I can afford to go to Pilates and to gym and to swimming, and but then it's like my lifestyle at the time, particularly from a work perspective, just didn't allow me to have that flexibility. Sometimes things would come up and then I just can't make my swimming class, or I can't make my Pilates class, or I can't make gym. Like, it was unexpected, and again, because everything is urgent, important, has to happen now, today, before the sun falls on top of us and melts us away, then I just wouldn't be able to. And she was even like, how can I, like, must I come to your house? She was like, should I come to your house? I was like, no. Maybe I should have said yes, but I was like, no, because then that means I also have to make sure that the house is clean enough all the time, like sparkling clean all the time, to make sure that you're here. No, I was like, it would be helpful, but no. And eventually she just learned how to, I guess, be flexible with me, which I appreciated a lot. But all of this is to say that stress is such a huge thing. I recently spoke to a friend, and I was checking in on her. She was like loving the masks that she bought from Jenny & Co, and I was so glad. And I was asking her, like, is the other serum working for her dark spots? And she was like, actually, yes, like I'm seeing a difference. But she was like, I'm still breaking out because I know I'm stressed. And she was like, I know the breakouts are because I'm stressed. And, she's one of my friends who, in fact, a lot of my friends work on Sundays. When it's Sunday, they pick up their laptops and they work. And I get it, because we were all there. I get the work that they do. I get why they need to do that. I get how you try your best during the week, but your son, it can get hard. And the reality is sometimes you're like, on that last, at Friday at 2 p.m., you're just like, at this point, I'm just DJing on the laptop now because I just can't do it no more. And so sometimes on Sunday, you need to catch up on those 2 hours of work on Friday that you didn't get to, because come Monday morning in the status update meeting, you need to give some feedback. And you don't want to be that girl who's like, oh, I didn't manage to do my work because I get you told them you work well under pressure, Wena. You told them there's no problem you can solve, Wena. So tons of ones, mistake in my lala, okay? Anyway, so none of this is to say that you must quit your job. Please don't do that if that's not something you want to do or can do. This is also not to make anyone feel bad, but it is to encourage you guys that take time for yourselves during the weekend, even if it's just an hour somewhere, 2 hours if you can, 3 if you can, a full day if you can, Sana. Just to be happy, be in your moment, be whatever that looks like. If that looks like being with people, great. Decide who those people are that make you happy and be with them. If that looks like being on your own and just listening to good music, having a glass of wine, having some water, a cup of tea, whatever it looks like do that. Light some candles, have a bubble bath. I don't know, like read a good book, and just get lost in it to the point where I make sounds when I'm reading, because I'm like, yo, ha, ha, eh, batung. Like, that's me reading. I'll be on the train and I'll be like, yo, 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 yo. And people will be like, what's going on here? So just do whatever makes you feel happy. So that is my encouragement to you guys, is find some time in the week and be so strict about that time to do the things that bring you joy and that literally make you feel revived and refreshed and renewed. Go to church, if that's also a renew, like something that you that pours into you. And just stress is gonna show on your skin. So it's not always, oh, the product is not working. Stress will show on your skin. If you are stressed, and stress could come from anything. My story mostly has been from work. A lot of people's stories have maybe also been from work, but stress can come from a lot of other things. Finances can be very stressful, and that can cause a chronic stress, because with finances, you think about them often. And I've been there too. Family dynamics, family situations, family environments can be so stressful, such that you think about them very often, such that you're having to deal with issues that maybe sometimes don't have anything to do with you. Relationships with your significant other or with a friend, a friendship breakup. Things in life can be very stressful. Your weight, right? If that's something that's always at the top of your mind and you're really like, oh, I want to lose the weight, but I feel like I'm working hard and it's not happening. Like, there's so many things that can become so stressful and develop into like chronic stress. And chronic stress is not good for you. At the end of the day, it's not good for your heart, it's not good for your mind, it's not good for your body, it's not good for your spirit. So as far as you can, identify at the very least, because it is difficult to say, you know, I heard someone say we must try and eliminate stress from our lives, which is true. Chronic stress, that is. However, it is a lot more difficult to do than, you know, than we think. But at the very least, start to identify those pathways or those channels, those areas of your life that create stress for you. And then try to start finding time in your week somewhere, especially on weekends. If you can do it during the week, then great. I have a friend who does some really cool stuff during the week. She'll be like at a jazz something, or she'll be like here doing like very wholesome things with like some of her friends back home, which I love, love, love. So if you're somebody who has that time during the week, or is good at making that time, because I think this is her thing, is like, it's not that she has the time, it's that she's good at making the time. She's very, you know, clear about it. She's very staunch about it. She's very like, she draws boundaries very quickly, and she's like, this thing, it's happening. How you work around it, good luck. But for me, this is what I'm saying. She's like, I'm going to the gym. She's like, my employer knows that. So if they want me before 9, they don't got me. Which I love about her. I'm like, yes, queen, yes. But yeah, you know, try and incorporate good things, good habits, good positive things into your life that make you happy. And like the book says, the earth continued to rotate. The earth is going to continue to rotate. If you don't choose to work today, this Sunday, that is the 9th of March, if you choose not to open your laptop today, the earth is going to continue to rotate. If you don't move your body, the earth is going to continue to rotate. However, I do encourage you to move your body so that 10 years from now and 20 years from now, you can thank yourself for it. Trust me, it's not always fun for me either. Okay, I always fight with myself, but I end up doing it. I try. If you don't do your skincare routine tonight, the earth will continue to rotate. However, your skin might be mad at you in a few days. You might see a breakout. You might see some dehydration. But yeah, when it comes to like stress, and especially the work environment, the workplace, the earth will continue to rotate. Isn't that insane? I wish somebody had told me when I was still in varsity that some of the things we think are so major in our minds, like the earth will continue to rotate. Sana, whether you are here tomorrow or not, the earth will continue to rotate. Now, there are some things that, yes, the earth will continue to rotate, but you want to protect those things so that as the earth continues to rotate and you keep breathing on that same earth, that your future self is not is not negatively impacted. So things like moving your body, caring for your skin, caring for your soul, caring for your mind, for your health, that kind of stuff. It's important. Just being happy, man. Just being happy. That's important. But then there are some other stuff like, yeah, not everything is important and urgent. I know we all make it seem like it is in the workplace. And yes, I've been that person who 100% makes it seem like it is. The earth will continue to rotate. Prioritize. Find the thing that truly is urgent and important. And in fact, I'd argue that find the thing that's important. Sometimes the urgent stuff isn't actually urgent, but that's a conversation for another day. Shout out. It's a really good book.